Alright guys, good morning. Today's lesson is going to be on the prologue of Romeo and Juliet. You guys are going to need to open your notebooks to your reading section. You will be taking notes, and I would also like you to have the prologue itself in front of you so that as I read it, you can go ahead and follow along, okay? So the first thing in your notes that you're going to go ahead and write is going to be our standard, which is on the board. You guys will write it and unpack it in your notes. I already unpacked it for you, so let's go ahead and do it together. Obviously this is a video, so if you need me to slow down, you can always pause. I'm just going to keep on going because I only have like 15 minutes to film before YouTube won't let me upload it, okay? So today's standard is going to be analyze in detail the structure of a paragraph in a text, including the role of particular sentences in developing and refining a key concept. So obviously we're going to be reading a particular part of the text, and we're going to analyze what each sentence means. Okay, analyze is going to be like to study or to examine the format of the text, and then we're going to be looking at the roles of particular sentences in order to kind of clarify what the main idea is, okay? So before spring break, I went ahead and assigned you to read the prologue and then answer a couple questions. A lot of you were very confused. You guys were messaging me. So today I'm going to go ahead and go over the prologue and explain why it's even important that we have it in Romeo and Juliet, okay? So to start off, what is an actual prologue, okay? The prologue is going to be an introduction that explains what's going to happen in the play. It's very similar to a film trailer. When you really want to watch a movie and you go on YouTube and look for the trailer, that's kind of what a prologue is. The only difference is that in Shakespeare time, it was kind of necessary for them to spoil what was going to happen. So a lot of you said, Miss, the prologue tells us that they kill each other. Well, yes, in the prologue, it's going to tell you exactly what's going to happen in the story, just to kind of entice you to keep on reading and find out why. Why did they kill each other in the first place, okay? It's very different than a trailer, because if that happened for a movie trailer, we probably wouldn't go watch it because we already know what's going to happen. So back then in this time, they used to play this in the theater called the Elizabethan theater, and it's not like the theaters that we go today where, you know, there's probably maybe 20-30 people, they sit down quietly and they watch the movie. In this time there was about 1,000 to 3,000 people in the theater. It was very loud, there was food and drinks, there was poor people, there was rich people, and if in the prologue they didn't like what they were gonna see or hear in the play, they would automatically start riots. So it was kind of very important that your prologue was good and that your story plot was also entertaining for both men and women. So that's why if you read the prologue, it kind of tells you, yeah, it's a love story, but it's also a lot to do with death. So they were kind of enticing both women and men that they were going to be entertained by this poem, okay? Another important thing, that's probably why the prologue was important, like I said, to help you to stay and watch the play, but it was also important because it made sure to set the scene. At this time, I know a lot of you go to Broadway plays or our plays that we have here in Florida, where they kind of change scenery sometimes and it's very fancy and you have costumes and all that stuff. It wasn't like that back in the day. So it was all done by men. So yes, Juliet was a male, and there was no costume changes, there was no different backgrounds. So the prologue kind of told you, okay, this is where it's going to take place. So in this case it's Italy, and now everybody's image is, okay, it's in Italy, we know what it looks like. So there was no backgrounds or anything like that. So the prologue is very important to, number one, set the scene, so it tells us where it's going to be, and number two, it tells us an overview of what we're going to read, okay? So now that we know what a prologue is, we're going to go ahead and analyze the prologue together. So you should all have your prologue in front of you, and then as I read and analyze, you will be as well analyzing. That means highlighting and writing on the side what these sentences mean, okay? So to start off with, it says two households, both alike in dignity. So two households, that means two families. So two different families that are the same in worthiness and respect, okay? So it's not like one is poor, one is rich. They're both the same, okay? In fair Verona, where we lay our scene. So like I said, this is done in Italy. So the word Verona, it's a place in Italy, it's a very hot city, it has very narrow streets. So it kind of sets the scene as something intense, okay? And then the word scene, it kind of demonstrates that we're reading a play. It's not a real life thing, so obviously this didn't happen in real life. It's just a play. So on the side of that sentence, I want you to say, how does the setting relate to the plot of the play? You've already read this, so you know the plot, what's going to happen. How does the setting, it being in Verona, in a hot city, in a very narrow street, kind of intense, how does that relate to the play? I'm going to keep on going, but if you want to pause it and answer that to the side, you can, okay? From ancient grudge break to new mutiny. So grudge, what does the word grudge mean? That means like resentment and ill will towards people. So if it says it's an ancient grudge, that means it's very old. It's been happening for a while. So these families have been fighting for a long time. And if we say it's going to break into new mutiny, that means it's going to happen again. So although they've been fighting for a while, now it's going to happen again. Where civil blood makes civil hands unclean. So civil, that means kind of like the civilians in the community. That means these people that are fighting are going to include the civilians around them, okay? From forth the fatal lions of these two foes. From forth the fatal loins of these two foes. So loins is kind of like your organs, your reproductive organs. And then it's kind of talking about how two offspring, so two people from a family, will cause a death. We don't know whose death it is yet, but two people are going to cause some type of death, okay? A pair of star-crossed lovers take their life. So this sentence kind of tells us exactly what's going to happen. There's a pair, so a couple of star-crossed lovers. Star-crossed lovers means that your chances are kind of like decided by fate, okay, or something that goes on in the world. So your fate is decided for you. Take their life. Obviously take their life. They're probably going to commit suicide. So clearly two lovers are going to take their own life. Spoiler alert, we already know what's going to happen. So that's what I was saying, how the prologue kind of tells you and spoils what's going to happen in the story. Whose misadventured piteous overthrows, dogs with their death bury their parents' strife. So this kind of tells us that because they die, that means their families are going to stop the feud that they've had. Okay, so once the two couples take their own lives, the family feud ends, and now they're back to being friends, okay? So that's going to be the first half of the prologue. So the first half of the prologue is telling us exactly what's going to happen in the story. We know the set of the scene, we know the characters, and we know what happens to the characters. The second half of the prologue is the author kind of talking to us and telling us what to expect. So he says, the fearful passage of their death marked love and the continuance of their parents' rage, which but their children's end not could remove, is now the 2 hours traffic of our stage. So the 2 hours traffic, that means we're going to be watching this play for 2 hours. And this is what's going to be happening in the 2 hours. The which if you with patient ears attend, what here shall miss, our toil shall strive to mend. So it's saying as long as we're able to listen patiently and watch the play, whatever we did not understand in the prologue is going to be explained in the actual play, okay? So the last part of the prologue is just summarizing what's going to happen and what we are to expect, okay? So now that we have analyzed and kind of annotated the prologue, you guys are going to answer a couple questions that I'm uploading on Edmodo as well. This is going to go in your reading section under all of these notes, okay? This video you should be seeing on Tuesday. So Tuesday you're doing all your work. Wednesday morning I'm going to have help hours from 9 to 9:50. So if you need help on any of the stuff that you learned today on the comprehension questions, if you need help with the prologue, if you need help with the standard that we went over, you will sign in to my help hours from 9 to 9:50 and I will help you on Wednesday, okay? Also, if you have any other questions on Romeo and Juliet, please feel free to message me, DM me through Instagram on my teacher account, or message me on my email. Edmodo a lot of the times is down, so if you try to message me on Edmodo and it's not working, I probably won't see it until it starts working again. So just contact me through different ways just to make sure that I'm reading your messages, okay? But that is the lesson for today, so I hope you guys understood, and hopefully I will see you in my next lesson.